Vibe coding is coding with AI tools. Now, the proponents argue that vibe coding democratizes software development. Welcome back. So, vibe coding is the topic of today, and what we will be talking about is the hype, the reality, and the path forward. Okay, what's the future of software engineering with vibe coding? Now, vibe coding currently is an emerging trend that is at the intersection of artificial intelligence and software engineering. Okay, it's using AI tools to perform software engineering tasks, if you put it that simply. So we're going to be defining what vibe coding is, exploring the tools that make it possible to be able to implement vibe coding, and also we'll discuss the ongoing debates, okay, between the proponents and the critics, and then I will then be sharing my use case and what I believe is the best practice for leveraging vibe coding effectively. Okay, so let's start with understanding. So just so I'm following time, I have a presentation that gives me a guide, because I'm open to keep this as short as possible. Now, I'll start with telling us what vibe coding is. Now, vibe coding is actually a coined phrase, I believe, right? And I believe it came from a tweet from one of the AI leading experts on Twitter, or X. His name, I think, is Andre Kapathi. I hope I pronounced that right. And he had a tweet referring to building or writing code using AI tools as vibe coding. And that tweet popularized the term vibe coding, and it's where we are today. Again, I don't want to speak for the intention of his tweet, but many believe that it was a sarcastic way of referring to how people use AI tools to write code. However, that tweet was what popularized the term vibe coding. Now, what is vibe coding? Again, vibe coding is coding with AI tools, or specifically with LLMs. Okay, as you know, most of our advancements in artificial intelligence today is still largely centered around large language models, and that's because large language models have the NLP technique, which is natural language processing techniques, that helps us talk to it in natural language, and it's able to perform tasks for us. Now, vibe coding is using LLMs to build or to code, right? And it's often used for bringing out ideas or experimenting your thoughts in a rapid manner. So if you have an idea, you can just go to an AI tool that is powered by an LLM and use natural language to develop a code based on your idea. So the focus is actually not on anything structured, but it's largely on speed, creativity, and so on. So basically, I have an idea. I want to see if my idea is going to work, and then I tell the LLM my idea, and it writes a code for me that builds the tool for me in a certain language that I must have specified. Okay, and sometimes people don't even specify a language, they let the LLM decide. There are tools like Manus AI, which is also believed to be able to not only write the code, but actually build the app for you and package it and so on. Well, I watched a video, an AI expert trying to use Manus AI to, I think, build a mail system. and what he built was not exactly a mail system, but at least he was able to develop a proper software engineering structure of the code, write the code, but the packaging and deploying section failed when he was trying to show that on some video on YouTube. But again, there are tools like Manus AI that can help spring things forward for you in building your idea or converting your idea to an actual app. Now, vibe coding, right, is actually the main driver for building tools using AI or LLM engines. Okay. Now, again, the focus is on speed and creativity, not planning or structure. Hence the term coding in vibe. Okay, so you're not going into it with an actual plan or structure in software engineering terms. Now, why is this important? It is important because it allows both software engineers and non-software engineers to be able to test their ideas in code. Okay, so vibe coding, in my opinion, is essentially a rapid prototyping process. Okay, it's performing prototyping, but in a faster and more energized and more creative way. You get me? So every system that we built is from an idea, right? Now, even as software engineer, so in my tool, Carbon AI, which I just founded, I started off building Carbon AI with a prototype. And at the time, there was no vibe coding as such, but I was able to use the Azure Playground to be able to prototype what my AI tool might look like. Because with the Azure Playground about 2 years ago, you could upload your own data set and make the LLM only answer questions from your data set without me having to go through the rigorous process of chunking text and building a RAG model. So with Azure Playground, I was able to prototype Carbon AI to even see if the thoughts or the ideas around it were feasible. Okay, so prototyping is nothing new. Now, what vibe coding does is it essentially makes your prototyping process in a more rapid and creative way. So it enables a flow state where developers and even non-developers can turn ideas into code without any restrictions or inhibitions. All right, so there are no rules or no strict rules, no rigorous structure or planning. It's just for you to create, iterate, and explore. Right, so it's building your prototype based on your thoughts, and the only skill you need is the skill of natural language. So if you type in natural language into the LLM, it will produce your prototype for you. So that is what vibe coding is. So now we're going to go quickly into the debate section of it. Now, with the debate, right, I'm just going to adjust my screen a bit because I think the light is, I think this is better. All right. So with the debate, right, the debate is between those who are for vibe coding and those who are against vibe coding, right? And I'll tell you where I stand in that. Now, so I'll say the proponents and the critics. Now, the proponents argue that vibe coding democratizes software development, right? And they also say that it's a way of enabling anyone to create prototypes and test ideas quickly, reducing the barrier of entry into software engineering or development. What is my take on that? Right? I would say that is true. vibe coding actually democratizes software development. However, it only democratizes it at the ideation stage. Okay, and that's how I see it. Now, again, by the proponents, and what most of them argue is it enables anyone to be able to create prototypes and test their ideas quickly. The key word is creating prototypes, right? So it even makes it, in my opinion, makes it easier to be able to translate your ideas to software engineers without a very large project specification or software specification document, okay, or software requirement document that we build, because that way the software engineers can take your prototype, right, and run the code and easily understand what you're trying to go to do faster than reading through text. So I would say it actually quickens that aspect of building your software requirement documents, passing it to the software engineers, where they then have to translate your software required documents into their own understanding, then check back with you to see if their understanding is correct before they start coding. You get. Now, currently, I was saying in real time, I have my team of engineers that work with me. When I'm building something, so let's say I get a requirement for my investors or board, the requirement would come through meetings. I'm going to write a document, share it with the board to say that I understand what features they're after within the tool or software we're building, and then I build a prototype, and that prototype is demoed to my team. And this is way before vibe coding came in. Okay, the prototype is demoed to my team, and they have a quicker understanding of the functionalities that we are after within that software. So prototyping is essential in the actual software development life cycle. Now, what vibe coding does and what the proponents are arguing is it speeds up that ideation phase with prototyping, allowing not just someone like myself to build a prototype, because I'm a software engineer, so I can write a prototype and give it to my team, but it also allows, say, the board of directors or someone else within that has the idea within the feature, that has some technical understanding to an extent, can power a simple IDE like Visual Studio, do some vibe coding, right, and then send me the prototype of their idea, and I don't have to write a prototype again. So vibe coding actually speeds up that process. Okay, so in that angle, I do understand and I agree with the proponents within the concept of using vibe coding to build prototypes. Yeah. Now, this is where the critics come in. The critics are concerned about building production systems with AI generated code, right? And I worry about that as well. Now, AI generated code is quite hard to maintain, and it's not just hard for human software engineers to maintain. It's also hard for the software, for the AI tool to maintain. So I was using Claude, I think. So I go between Claude and ChatGPT for my prototyping or for my vibe coding phase. And what I find with both tools is, once you ask it to write a function, right? And there is a bug within that function or a misunderstanding of the requirement within that function. And then I say to the tool, again, the AI tool, to say, look, you've had a misunderstanding within this function, and it's between the lines, between here and say line, I don't know. Because again, it's not like it has a number. I will just describe where the line is. I said between the lines where the function is capturing data from the API, for example, and it's capturing the wrong data, it should be in this format. Once I send it back to the LLM, or well, to ChatGPT or Claude, whichever tool I'm using, to correct that, just that section within the function that it created. Now, remember, the AI tool created that function. There's a bug in that function. I've described where the bug in the function is, and I'm asking the AI tool to correct it. What I get most of the time back is an entirely new function, okay? Yes, addressing the bug, but it's different from what it has written before. Now, this new function then means I have to go through it and understand it, and most of the time, the initial function is right. I just needed that little part changing. Now, even the AI tool finds it hard to maintain its own code. Now, taking AI generated code to production will become a nightmare of technical debts, and that's DEBT, in the future for that software. And that's where the critics are concerned. And they're also concerned on the risk related to the quality of what we're producing, the security around it, and the long-term sustainability of such AI-generated code. And these are valid concerns, which I agree with. Okay, so that is the debate. Now, I will now then be going into the use cases of vibe coding, right? And then explaining how you can also implement vibe coding. So stay tuned as I carry on.